Hello and welcome everyone
Howdy.
to the Multifamily Weekend Update.
No Justin Jones, but you have a Justin Dilly.
That's right. Thank you, Justin Jones, for keeping us on the up and up with our Simpsons memes. It's episode 42, Friday.
10 more until we've hit a year.
Holy cannoli.
Fitting, because, you kind of came up to me right after NAA last year and was like, hey, let's do something. And now we've done it, I guess.
That's right. Let's hit the ripcord, if you will, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whew.
Well,
what are we going to talk about here?
We should talk about stuff. Actually, speaking of hitting the ripcord, I'm gonna pop it over to our buddy Ronald.
Yeah.
Pop it over to our buddy Ronald, who hit the ripcord here.
He did.
How's it going, everyone? We're here with Ronald at the top of the Strat, 855 feet above the Las Vegas Strip, and he's about to jump off the tower today.
Let's jump for hunger.
Ronald, turn around, look inside. We'll get one more.
I just want to mention, I had meetings when this was happening in that tower, and it was terrifying for us to watch this happen.
Sorry.
Ronald is beyond a champion. Ronald and many other people were raising money for Move for Hunger.
Can I go underneath, go
good.
lower for hunger instead of falling for something?
Can I drop down a 20-foot ladder for hunger?
Your feet to the edge. Okay, when I say go, release your hands and jump, okay?
Okay.
Here comes Ronald. 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go! Woo! Yeah! This is how we do it! Way too calm.
I guess if you're gonna do it.
Like a champion that he is.
It's a lot of wind.
I mean, Ronald, that brings a tear to my eye because if I did it, I would feel like I was dying.
And a shout out to other folks. I don't remember everyone, but I know there was a few other folks. I think like Vanessa Grayson might have done something too, and maybe Betsy Cunningham. I don't know who all did it, but if you did jump or did something for hunger or else, congratulations.
Yeah, I think this was very interesting. I'm not sure if we've seen something like this in previous events, but I found that this was a very fitting activation for a nonprofit.
Yeah. And there's plenty of opportunities because there's a lot more conferences going back to Vegas. So if you like what you see, this is a way to get some engagement.
This is true.
Good work.
OpTech will be there in fall.
Mm-hmm. Blueprint, I think, right? There's a
Blueprint
there's
will
a
also
couple
be
coming
there.
up. Yeah.
Well, we this is the more or less the recap episode. We came to you last week talking about our initial thoughts of what was going on when we were kind of on the ground. But now that we've had a chance to sober up, if you will, take a chance to relax, think about what actually happened, what transpired, really gather and gather as much information as we could from attendees from Apartmentalize in Las Vegas. There's a lot of different things we wanted to chat about. So.
Yeah, it was good to have some space too. I'd seen Eric basically all last week, like a lot of the time. So it was nice to have some space.
We did spend a lot of time together.
We did. So we decided to talk about, as Eric shows you, like connection, buzzwords, travel, booth, the lines, the launch, session, format, all these different topics. We have about 10 of them. So we're going to do it in a kind of a topic way. No specific kind of order. I think we'll keep this just like Kenny would. I think we should keep it totally, barefoot. And Eric, choose one to talk about.
Oh, I can choose a random one. Well, let's talk about travel.
Okay, so travel specifically was kind of getting around Vegas. All right, and one of the best things that we heard people talk about was using the loop. Did you use the loop?
I did not. I have a lot of credit card bills for taxi cabs, but I was jealous. I was not in the loop of the loop.
Yes. It's like the inner circle for the travel folks at the conference.
Yes. If you were able to use the loop, and wait, correct me if I'm wrong. There was like a train system up top, but that was not the loop. The
No.
loop is the underground tunnel from the Boring Company. Yeah.
Right. Staying on our Simpsons theme a little bit. The train above was the monorail, and I
Monorail.
can't say the word monorail without thinking about the Simpsons. The loop was all underground. You rode in Teslas. There was different stopping points. Some of it was free, some of it was paid. It was pretty cool. The worst part of traveling is probably not cab rides. What do you think the worst part of getting around was? Probably walking.
Oh, walking. And I definitely did it a couple times. And I think most of us experienced the sheer heat, the record heat. Maybe not record heat, but record for a lot of us where we live. I mean, it was 100+ degrees almost every single day.
Yeah.
Just, Las Vegas showing its true colors as we all arrived. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll choose one. So we'll do connection.
Yeah.
There's pros with connection, cons with connection. You talked about some cons with connection. Specifically.
Yeah, I think the challenge with anytime you go to these events is, getting connection, whether or not you're inside the hotel. And this is, communicating with team members, so on and so forth. For me, the Wi-Fi was just such a drag at this conference. And I don't know if it was a conference center. I don't know if it was just me. I know it wasn't just me, but it still baffles me that, we can get great Wi-Fi for stadiums, but whenever we go to these conferences, understandably, sometimes there's sponsors for Wi-Fi, but it seems like the internet connection is just always a drag, and it's hard to send messages or attachments, and that's very frustrating for not only vendors who are attending these events, but just participants who are trying to upload things to social media or send things back to their team, or hey, check out this great session I was at. Here's a photo with me and someone else. And then it takes like 30 minutes to send it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and also, to your point, like, and this might kind of dovetail into media a little bit, like Apartmentalize has a pretty great app where if you've done stuff, selected stuff, highlighted stuff, it's going to push notification to you. However, those notifications only work if you're connected to a strong signal, and half the time you're not. So a lot of the things that I kind of flagged to say, oh, I need to go see this in 15 minutes, like all showed up like after the fact when I finally got closer to a better either cell phone signal or the Wi-Fi was stronger or I was able to connect to it where I was. But there were some good connections. There's some good connections. The best connections, and I think this kind of resonated across lots of different posts and people, was like meeting folks in real life, right? You've connected with them on LinkedIn, you followed their content, maybe you've interviewed for a job, maybe however you've connected to these folks, you've never met them in person. And now we saw a lot of selfies, a lot of teams coming together for the first time because we're in a more remote culture. So a lot of those in real life connections were probably the best ones.
Yeah, I completely agree to that. This goes into my conversation about Las Vegas, not necessarily the most central location, but definitely, great for folks on West Coast or the Southwest. But yeah, it was great to connect in person with a lot of people we haven't seen throughout the year. And this is why we call it the Super Bowl, right? Of multifamily.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you're up. You get to choose another one.
I could try to. Let's talk about booths.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you want to start? Best, worst? Where do you want to start?
I did happen to walk by the saloon. Funnel put together a pretty interesting saloon style. I thought it was very Las Vegas themed. I do appreciate that, the time and effort it takes to, choose something, commit to it, and like double down on it. And, a Las Vegas style saloon for Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it reminds me, there's a restaurant chain in Texas in the South, and the Phoenix brand of restaurants, right? So you have that Southwest kind of feel. I appreciate that it connected to kind of Phoenix, that name, but also where we were was Vegas. And it was very relevant to the moment. I liked some of the other booths that were like had activity, had some health. There wasn't many runs at NAA this year. There's been a lot of runs in the past. It's too hot for that.
Yeah, there was a walk.
There's a walk. Yes, I did the walk. The walk was awesome. I think Nurture Boss, Ven, some other folks were part of that. But it was nice to have a pickleball court and I guess tournament, it looked like, from Inhabit. And then Entrada had a basketball court. I don't know if there was a bracket there, but there were people playing.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I would love to see the tournament style stuff. I think that's interesting. Like have competing CEOs go up against each other, for fun, right? And like the winning team gets to choose the charity or something.
Yeah, that's another great way to activate, for some donations and for something like that. And it's a nice break from being inside, from just walking around or sitting. It's a nice thing to kind of break up the day too.
Yeah, I could agree to that. And I know coordinating that is very challenging for sure. But once again, if we can kind of like bring all of this back to like, why are we here? Bring it back to a nonprofit. I think that would be very interesting. Well, doing it all for the fun of it, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, it doesn't really like your bragging rights last a year, right? Until the next year. But I think it'd be interesting to book competing CEOs and so on. To have pickleball tournament or, a horse competition, if you will, in basketball.
So the worst booth, and granted, I don't think either of us were able to walk through the entire trade show floor, but you kind of pointed this out too, which is some of the limitations that kind of come with the I guess it's called the launch pad area, or sort of the newer sponsors, the newer products that we're kind of exhibiting.
Yeah, I understand the need to generate a lot of revenue from existing vendors and sponsors, and space is limited at these conventions. I know that next year being in New Orleans will be a different story. I think this convention hall will actually be quite possibly larger than the one that we were in this year. So the potential or opportunity is to have much more space for startup businesses. I think it is such a drag on startups that are trying to enter into multifamily. And the jump between a small booth and the big booth is very, very big. It's a large jump. So I would love to see more space dedicated to startups. I would love to see more love for the startups. Yes, we're all here to go to the 40 by 40, 20 by 20 stuff. But at the end of the day, these companies with larger budgets, they are paying the bills. But in reality, if we're trying to really have a mix of both enterprise and mid-market, then we need to add more space for startup booths. We need to give them better opportunities. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Competition and innovation is a good thing. It's always a good thing. I think one of the things that was interesting for me is I had trouble finding it. Like a colleague and I searched for it a few times. We finally found it. The signage was it was very Vegas-y signage. It was very high. It was hard for me to see that area. I would like it to be in maybe like almost towards one of the main front kind of entrances, where it was like, it's like, the Hall of Presidents at Disney. It's like, hey, you just have to pass through this section where you see this new stuff. You don't have to engage with it, but then you can start seeing it or thinking about it, and then you go into the rest of it. Like,
you want to create a feeder system. Create a feeder system. Have the startups get that exposure that they desperately need, so that next year they have the 10 by 10 booth.
Yeah, and exactly. They see their ROI on it, and they're going to sign up again, 100%.
I mean, and understandably, the larger organizations are vying for that front booth space, but like, they're going to see you. You all have these things that are 50 feet tall. You've got spinning banners over the top. You've got the basketball courts of the world. So and obviously I have skin in the game. I love working with startups, and I have a passion for helping startups grow. But it's just to me, it makes complete sense to have startups have better access to building awareness for their brand and the problems that they're solving.
Right. And again, if you're like a seasoned person, you're going to know, hey, I need to go check out this area. I want to check out this. But if you're coming for the first time, it's too overwhelming to kind of navigate. So having something like that, which is like, hey, this is the newest of the new, and putting that towards people's faces would probably help, just educating the kind of the masses in general.
Mm.
All right, so you chose Booth. Buzzword. We'll do buzzword.
Little AI buzzworthy here. Yeah, AI is still the big buzzword for sure.
Yeah. I think it's the best and worst, honestly. It's like it's like every, sometimes people are saying it. It doesn't. It's like how is that AI, or what are you doing exactly with AI? And everyone's kind of using it in some way. So I think people are often saying it as like a just like, oh, we have it, like a feature dump kind of thing, versus this is the value of how we're specifically using it.
This is true. I'm actually going to go back. So Andrew Bowen just put in a comment here, and these are delayed oftentimes. So sorry about that. Andrew's, doubling down on something I brought up as well. Like let's segment some of these locations, right? Obviously there's a lot of strategy that goes into choosing where your booth is, but I think there's a huge advantage to the people who are attending and pay money for the services to have all of the maintenance related folks in one area, all of the PMS related folks in one area.
Yeah, like a maintenance alley or a marketing row. And I think the sales side of me is like, if you want to be categorized appropriately, you have to get in by a certain date. So it's not just the fact that the price goes up. It's, hey, I want people to find me that are interested in XYZ, and I want to be in that designated area. And then maybe the unincorporated territory is really the people that didn't do that, right? Like like sort of outliers.
Because and part of the reason why we say this is I know for a fact that there are property managers, whatever level you are, whatever you have a problem to solve. I need to solve X. I'm coming to this event to talk to these 3 companies. I now have to scatter my walk and do the quarter mile walk this way and the quarter mile walk, and the amount of people you bump into. It's so difficult to be able to truly compare apples to apples. And oftentimes you only have about an hour to get from point A to point B to point C before you have to go to a session, go grab lunch, go meet with your team. Mm-hmm. Why not just put them all in one row or one alley or one general area, right? So Andrew, well said. Thanks for bringing that topic back up. Yeah.
So AI, we touched on it, but basically had some great people saying like great things, right? About AI. I don't know if you got any good sessions specifically. You were running around.
I did not. I unfortunately I was mostly on the exhibition floor. I will say my opinion on AI from the vendor side is that I love the way some vendors use AI in the name. Other vendors are saying it's like aided by AI. Some of us are leading with AI, thinking like, that we're putting our best foot forward. This is AI driven or AI enhanced or whatever. But then other companies just stick to the fact that like, hey, we have a piece of software and AI is a part of it. Right. Yeah. But it's like a tool that is a part of it, but it's not necessarily like the leading thing.
Right. No, it is a kind of specific distinction, and we'll see what plays out. I do think, from what I heard from like the operator side, is that a lot of times some of this stuff is solving the issues that don't exist or don't exist in such great demand. It's like, this saves, but still we have resident satisfaction here, or still we have a delay here, or still. So it's speeding up a part of the process, but maybe not effectively kind of doing what it needs to do to generate better sentiment, better results.
Putting my marketing cap on here, if you have anything with AI in your product as a however you have it embedded in, I really think you have to demonstrate the quantifiable benefits, right? Using our system with AI versus using our system without AI, using a regular system versus using our system, which is AI enhanced, right? Just demonstrating the hours saved, the dollars saved. Sure, you can talk about how AI helps make things faster, better. But if you're not quantifying that appropriately for someone who's got 10,000 units, I oftentimes like to use whole numbers. So it's like, hey, if you have 100 units, this is how much time it saves. Therefore, if you have 10,000 units, multiply this by that, and that's how much you could potentially save.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll keep moving on because I can't believe we still have more stuff to do. There's a lot to talk about. We'll talk about the line quickly. So you weren't here Thursday night, but the worst line ever was for that party. I'm sure you heard about it.
I did. I heard the line was more than a 30-minute long queue, which
was insane. And no matter different people did different things. Some came late, some whatever. It was a lot. So I think everyone had feelings about that line.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
And do we know why? Do we know why the line?
It was security. Part of the party was in, had a club element. So it was typical kind of security you would go through for that. Checking things. I believe we showed IDs. I don't even remember because I was so tired and hungry by the time I got through it. But it was still a great experience. Those who got through the line, I think just when we have events like that, maybe something to think about is waves of like, hey, we're going to send this group of people from this time, so that so it's not overwhelming for the staff, because I think they were overwhelmed as well. Good lines, I don't know. I don't know what a good line was. I was near a good line. The apartments.com, Brad Bucks, Starbucks line was always short. So if you needed coffee, that was a great line to go to. I don't know if you saw any good lines.
I didn't see a good line, but I know that the podcast Palooza had a good line.
Yes, it did. A good line.
I think we were so afraid that the Palooza might have issues because there was an elevator that had to take people up. So we were just afraid that there would be, but the security is successful. Everyone somehow sauntered in at appropriate times, which was great.
Okay. What's next? What topic?
Oh my goodness. How about launches? Yeah.
Okay, launches. Yeah. Well, I say the worst one is many of the ones that I kind of heard, not because they didn't do well, but many of the ones that kind of came out the week after Apartmentalize, or it really caught wind. And I think this may relate again to that media, or may relate to that Wi-Fi, where it's like there might have been notices about that on the app that I didn't see. So I think maybe to Andrew's point, if you are launching something, maybe that could be even a section, or maybe there's something specific that goes on your booth if you are launching something at Apartmentalize. There were certain things that, had I known that they were launching something, I would have stopped by. I would have made a point to stop by that booth.
Yeah, this makes sense. And one launch that I was very close to was the Maintenance Academy. I will toot the horn of the Maintenance Academy, mostly because it's a free resource for maintenance technicians and for operators that are looking to upskill and train their technicians.
And I will say, also there was kind of a noise about it even outside of NAA. Like you would see it on LinkedIn that people that weren't even at, the convention center were talking about this launch. So that was a very successful thing as well.
Yeah, kudos to Mark Sharp on that launch there. Yeah.
Session format. Let's do that quickly.
Yes.
Any highs or lows for you?
So, I did. I wasn't there on Friday, so I can't say much of what happened on Friday. I know that it always stinks on the final day. It's very challenging because oftentimes there's a lot of drop off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I think those morning slots and the expo time, honestly, that Friday schedule is kind of, people, especially when you're traveling like across time zones, people are getting out so that they can have their weekend. I think, and I was talking to someone from, I won't say their name, but someone from Graystar about this, and they were saying that it would be great if we had like Tuesday, like expo time, or Wednesday expo time, Thursday expo time, and then you're done. And so it was like a full day of like that. And then Friday's really the kind of like goodbye, like maybe there's an opening session goodbye that people can catch or not.
Yeah,
but that would be great.
It's like serve brunch, maybe but you can still have a big headliner. Like I think Simone Biles, which I didn't hear anything about. To be frank with you, saw no photos of Simone.
I have a few, but it was good. It was good.
Well, you didn't share them with me.
I did not. I did not. No, but it was good. But I brought some people. I think those last sessions are, it's always a Q&A kind of format. So it depends on what questions are asked and then how they respond. So that's something that we could rethink the schedule in terms of the sessions. I will say that I went to 2 sessions Friday morning. The content was great. The energy was great. The conversation was great. It'd just be wonderful if more people were there to be part of it. One of the wins, I think, one of the best things about the format is those fishbowl sessions.
Yeah, that is my favorite, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being able to have more tighter engaged audiences, I think is great.
I think more of those. I think more of those would be a welcome from a lot of folks. Let's move to media. Should we? Yeah. So the worst for me, the worst was like maybe any kind of extra noise, and this is like LinkedIn. I think there was so much stuff on LinkedIn during Apartmentalize that it can kind of drown out what's happening when you're there. If you had a better, if we had more access to the app where you can kind of focus and zero in and be just kind of present versus relying on LinkedIn to kind of know what's going on. But we all do it. I mean, myself included.
Honestly, at this point, I'm surprised there's not a direct link inside the app where it only shows posts that do hashtag Apartmentalize 2026.
Yeah, that would be
just gonna throw that out there. If you want to get the app sticky, you want people using that app, create a reason for people to be on there. And I think having just a feed on LinkedIn with anyone who's using that hashtag would be interesting. You're going to get more people posting using the hashtag, more people going to the app.
Yeah. And I guess best, for, Chris Moreno was everywhere. I feel like he was interviewing everyone. He was always kind of working or recapping something or taking notes on something. Every
time I refresh LinkedIn, there was another video of him. I don't know how he does it. I will say that on Thursday night, I saw Chris and bumped into him briefly. As everyone had left and got ready for the party, he was there sitting on his laptop outside, a broken down Dunkin' Donuts, which was void of any food, any donuts for sure. And he was sitting there doing work. So, obviously he seems like he can be in 2 places at once, but yeah.
Accommodations. If you were at the Conrad, that was the best spot. Obviously, Win Encore, great. A little harder to get to. If you were at the Conrad, it wasn't too hard to get to the convention center. Very walkable, even. Bad accommodations. I don't know.
Yeah, some of the hotel rooms are definitely up there. What, like $400 and more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice. At the end of the day, it's nice to be in a nice bed in a nice place, but for me, we're rarely spending time there. You're just putting your head on the pillow, you're up, you're showered, and you're out the door.
Yeah. And the soundtrack to Apartmentalize, I think the clear loser in this was me. I put together a Spotify playlist. I don't think anyone listened to it, but I will say there's a really great version of Shaggy singing Luck Be a Lady Tonight that I think everyone should put into their library. So
this is good to know.
That's it. The winners, obviously, was Ludacris. That was Thursday night party. And then a lot of folks went to the Sphere and saw Kenny Chesney.
That's right. I noticed a lot of folks leaving on Wednesday during the kickoff. Kenny was a big... Kenny was a big deal.
And the soundtrack to NAA. And there's one other rock star that kind of wins.
This is true. You may know this rock star.
You probably do. Session that was of Christy Pickard, but it looks like it was probably a lot of fun.
Christy must have had quite the session there. That must have been Friday morning, actually. I'm sure must have been a Friday morning, 9 a.m. session.
That's why you stay. So we'll close with the soundtrack, I guess, because we're going to end. It's the weekend. We're tired of talking about Apartmentalize. We'll probably still see recaps next week. We will. Yeah. But Eric and I won't be talking about it.
No. Yep. Until next year.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.